Nice, very nice.
So who was on the bottom bunk? That's what I don't understand, Gene. Because that was a dangerous place to be.
Whoever
Anyway,
wanted to
start
be,
recording whenever you want.
whoever wanted to be at the bottom bunk. I'm resident Hollywood for you. That's my buddy Patrick McCray. That's my buddy Bob Lugosi. We're here to discuss some Dark Shadows for you, and we're going to discuss the Phoenix Ark. Diana Malay plays the lovely, lovely, but fiery, mostly lovely and fiery, sometimes at the same time, Phoenix, but who's posing as Laura Collins, Roger's ex-wife or Roger's current wife, who he's trying to get a divorce from. Frank Gardner handles all divorces. That means that's currently somewhat Victoria's boyfriend, if you could call him that. So what we have Diana Malay literally appearing out of nowhere. Her character is sitting in the coffee shop. We don't see her arrive in Collinsport. We don't see her get off a bus, a train, the way we did Vicky and Burke. She's just sitting there, like as she appeared out of nowhere. So my first question to you guys is, what did you think of her opening, where she's just like she appeared out of nowhere, sitting in the coffee shop? Go ahead, Bobby. You go first.
I re- I really like it. I like how it's a very normal soap opera introduction for a really extraordinary character. It's just like, I mean, it's like you would just, it's a way you would just like introduce any other character, and so you're wondering like, who is this person to, and if you like, didn't look ahead, like you're in for such a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, they play with ambiguity for a long time. You know, is she or isn't she? You know, what is she, and so on. And if they had had any more dramatic entrance, you know, like she's on fire outside, Firebird, and then she, you know, changes into a pantsuit or something like that. All of the detective work the characters do would be kind of redundant for the viewers.
Right, yeah.
You know, they'd just be waiting for, you know, Peter Guthrie to catch up. And instead, they're with him every step of the way.
Mm.
And I have to say too, like Diana Malay as Laura Collins, she has a very otherworldly quality about her.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't even really need anything spectacular to know that she's spectacular.
Yeah. I think too, what really they do a good job of adding the detective work before Guthrie really gets there too. Like there's some suspicion going toward Laura before Guthrie ever gets there.
Yeah.
That you have a woman who they say is the remains of Laura Collins that is burnt up in Laura's apartment, and they're trying to figure out, well, at first they're trying to figure out, well, who was the woman inside Laura's apartment, and they say, well, it was her, but really they're trying to say, well, they can't think of who else it would be. And Laura's like, well, I can't really either. I don't know who was in my apartment. I have no idea. I'm here. I'm not there. So she's playing it very, very cool and calm, which I love Dana Malay. She does not crack a sweat at all at the questions that are asked her.
Better, she works under high heat.
Right? But she does such a good job of playing it cool for her character. Again, the Phoenix is prepared, at least from the police standpoint, is prepared for any and all questions, because what she has done, what they have essentially done with the Phoenix here, is sort of pull from the pulps of the Shadow a bit. They've taken Laura Collins and saying, okay, this woman looks like Laura. She has Laura's name. She has Laura's identity. She has Laura's handwriting. She has Laura's voice. She knows information about David. She knows information about Roger. She knows how they got married. She knows when David was born.
Whoa. Roger and David got married?
Oh, sorry, Roger and Laura. When Roger and Laura got married. When David was born.
Wait, they got married when David was born? David was
No. When Roger and Laura got married. When then she also knows when David was born. She has all this information that is accurate. So in every way, what they're doing is they're taking a bit of the Shadow and sort of applying it to the Phoenix a bit. That she may look like Laura, she may have Laura's memory, she may speak like Laura, write like Laura, walk like Laura, but this is not Laura Collins. And I
Now,
think the writers do a phenomenal job of keeping that charade up as long as possible. What do you think, Patrick?
yes, I remembered none of that. Now, are you saying that she's not Laura? Or
To
that she's
me,
taking
well,
form of Laura?
she's not like for the beginning arc.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about the Phoenix in the beginning arc, Laura Collins is not that. The Laura Collins that was in Phoenix that got burnt to a crisp, hotter than a KFC rotisserie chicken. Okay, that my friends is Laura Collins, the woman who is dead. And the biggest question that to me ever remains in the Phoenix arc is, did Laura give up her body willingly, or did Laura give up her body
I
not?
think it's like molting.
Yeah.
I think this is the same, creature that married Roger and so on. It's just she molted
Yeah.
because there's too much history. There's, there's Laura Stockbridge, and then there's
Yeah.
Laura Bonifacio and Laura Dombrowski and all the different Lauras in Roger's address book. But no, seriously, I mean, I think she, for some reason she had to molt. I mean, are we ever given some explanation as to what that was in Arizona?
We're given the only real explanation we're given is that it was a body, and they say they feel it was Roger's wife, it was Laura, but they can't really confirm that because it's so burnt up. They can't take any real DNA from it. Now, I will say that with that, saying that, there's every hint that it's the writers are hinting that, yeah, that is Laura Lehner. And plus, when the body just eventually fades away, it completely goes up in ashes. So, plus you get the portrait of Laura and David painted by Sam Evans completely destroyed. Well, shows that adds David in there, but you get that destroyed and you hear this like blood curdling scream, which is amazing. Again, I'm jumping ahead, so I apologize, but it's really well done how they build up that Laura is dead and gone. The Laura that was in Phoenix, Arizona is dead and gone. Now, you could make the case that this was just all one big cocooned plan by the Phoenix that existed 100 years ago, that she always looked like a Laura.
I think that's what she always looks like. I think that's her human form.
Yeah, that's something that. So maybe they're doing a bit of, okay, we have this character who is Laura. She looks like Laura. She speaks like, she takes the form, but she sort of forms a cocoon, and she has to burn her old skin off to sort of keep a new appearance.
It could have been. Now you talk about it could have been just to travel.
Yeah.
That the fire spirit had to exit exit its body and fly.
Yeah.
And that it's not the sort of thing where it can transmute back and forth back like Barnabas.
Yeah.
Like this fire spirit comes out of her mouth and burns the body behind and flies off, and then I guess find someone to enter and reform as Laura.
Yeah, maybe find somebody like the closest to a doppelganger she can, and maybe she forms the rest.
Yeah.
That's what
hasn't come around yet.
I was just thinking that's one of the most interesting things about Laura Collins' character is like so much of it is like ambiguous. Like all the other like characters that come on later on, like Barnabas Collins, we know what a vampire is. We have an idea what a witch or warlock is, a werewolf. Whereas Laura Collins, we're like as much in the dark as like the characters are almost.
You don't quite know how to defeat her. I mean, you more have to just wait her out.
Yeah, if somebody would have only told Dirk Wilkins, hey, you just gotta wait 100 years, dude.
Yeah.
Charles
You know?
W. Tate can do it. You can do it too.
That's right. That's right. Um, what did you think, Bobby, of Frank Gardner makes a suggestion of bringing in Dr. Peter Guthrie? What did you think of that?
I really really like it. Like Dr. Guthrie, he's like one of my favorite characters of like the early episodes, because I love how he's how he is like scientific deductions, how he's like studying, but yeah, he feels like very real. Whereas like Professor, like later on, is great Professor Stokes, he was felt much more like a theatrical character. Whereas Dr. Guthrie, he feels like very real. So I really like the way they introduce his character.
And he's our first occult superhero on the show.
Yeah.
He really is. He knows.
Yeah. It is. I love the way he does the seance too. How he records it. He feels like it feels like a very like. It feels like a really real introduction of an occult, like you said, an occult superhero on the show.
I like how when they want to dig up a body and they want to know the location of certain cemeteries, who are they filling up? Who knows the area the best? Joe Haskell. Joel Carruthers is like, you want me to what?
I know this is going to sound really stupid, but I'm scared.
Right? Like, when you ask Joel Carruthers, Joe Haskell to dig it, hey, we want you to show cemetery, and hey, help open up a coffin. You want me to do grave rob? Oh no, not grave rob. We just want you to open up a coffin. Well, that's sort of like
about grave robbing.
Yeah. What did you think of that, Patrick?
That was great. I think he's your guy. Of course, he's the solid one you can count on.
I think like the introduction of Gardner is really interesting. Again, this is pre Dr. Julia Hoffman, but you have a character who is they're getting their first sort of supernatural character that gets into the supernatural, and he doesn't come in pointing fingers or saying, "Oh, you're a phoenix." No, he investigates it. He actually sits there and is trying to investigate it as a neutral sort of spectator. And I think that's one of the best early written new characters when they introduced him. I love the actor who portrayed him. I sort of wonder, because I know, did they always have that actor in mind, Patrick? Do you know?
For Peter Guthrie?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I don't either. I sort of wonder if he was always the one who was just intended to play him, or I know they probably tried out for the role, but it'd have been interesting to see if they, for example, but what if they would have recasted Frank Schofield as Dr. Guthrie? That'd have been interesting.
Yeah.
You know, because Dan did like to recast actors and actresses.
He did.
That would have been interesting if they would have got Frank Schofield to play Dr. Guthrie. Don't get me wrong, I love who they got, but that'd have been interesting.
It would have been.
You know, so we'll have a little fun with that. Who would you guys have cast as Dr. Guthrie?
Oh gosh, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm Bobby. Who would you like, of Dark Shadows types, or
people who came on the show later,
or anyone in the 60s? You can cast any.
60s.
That's a tough question.
That is a really tough.
I don't know. Who would you have cast?
I'm trying to. Let's see. 1960. This is 67.
Ooh, Russell Johnson.
Oh, Russell Johnson would have been perfect.
Yeah, the professor. Yeah.
The guy who played Arbogast in Psycho.
Oh, Martin Ball.
Yeah.
Arbogast.
He was supposed to play. He was supposed to play Hal.
Really?
In 2001. Yeah, he even voiced the part and everything, and they went in another direction. But yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Interesting.
I think he'd have been a good choice as a Peter Guthrie.
Excuse me for just a moment. Continue.
But I think there's a lot of actors you could have picked for the role. But now, if he would have a character I could have seen play or an actor I could have seen play Guthrie had he not become a big movie star, but he was already, by the time Dark Shadows hit, he was already well into movies well before Dark Shadows ever came along. And that was the guy who played Norman Bates. But he was so well in the movies. Now, if they would have said, instead of Dr. Peter Guthrie, Dr. Phyllis Guthrie, somebody who I might have considered would have been Betsy Palmer.
Oh, yeah.
But, again, because the character's supposed to be older, he's a grown adult, obviously. He's a he's a doctor.
Yeah.
And that's somebody I could have seen, like, if they would have went a woman route, but they do go the woman route with Dr. Julia Hoffman. Now, I'm trying to think of other male actors I would have loved to seen in that role. But another, I guess, 60s sort of actor I would have loved to see would have been, him I'm thinking of, not, again, because he's older, I don't think he would have been, or you know what, why not Vincent Price? But
oh yeah,
he would have been really interesting to play that part.
Oh, he would have been great at that part.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh, can you imagine? I mean, the actor who does it is wonderful. But I was just like the scene where he's talking to Laura and he's like, when it's the conversation when he says, yes, but as you so aptly remarked, the possibilities of this world are infinite. Like, Can you imagine that scene with Vincent Price?
Oh my god, yeah.
Like how
there's a YouTube video of him when he was on a show with Joan Rivers, a talk show, and they had him do his Thriller monologue live.
Oh, cool.
I'll send it to you when we're done here.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, it's really there's one with the music and one without. I'll send both to you. Because they have him do the voice without the music, then they do it with because they were recording it for television. But it was really cool. He did it. He nailed it. Obviously, while all rappers try to tell you they're scary, Vincent Price actually is scary. But yeah, Vincent Price would have made a great Dr. Guthrie for sure.
Yeah.
But hell of an actor, somebody who knew how to do horror and Poe and all that stuff. I mean, my God.
What's your favorite Vincent Price movie there, Joel?
Oh my God. It was one where I can't think of the name, but it's one where he's like, there's this big plague going on, and he's playing like he's in this castle.
Mask of the Red Death.
Yeah. That is such a great performance by him, and it's so good.
Yeah. You know who I was just thinking would have been a really good Dr. Guthrie too? Do you remember not the composer, but the actor John Williams? The one who was like in Dial M for Murder, like the detective.
Yeah, he's Shakespeare on an episode of The Twilight Zone, a 1-hour episode called The Bard.
Yeah.
Wow. I've seen him in Dial M for Murder. Good actor. Really, really good actor.
A little too good, if you ask me.
Oh my God. But yeah, I think Dr. Guthrie is such an interesting character, and really the Phoenix Ark, we know this is going to eventually be the reason that Dan found the courage to open up that and his daughters open up the coffin lid for Barnabas. So to all of us, how important was this stepping stone for Dark Shadows, you guys think?
It was gigantic.
Yeah.
And it prepared the way to be an episode about, a TV show about Barnabas.
Yeah.
I mean, it really it opened the way.
Yeah.
I,
Bobby?
I agree. It was. I mean, it's literally the transition from a soap opera. You have a character who's Laura Collins, who's already like involved with the family. She was the wife of Roger. Has a whole backstory. Then it transitions that character into being a supernatural character. It's the transition of the whole series.
There's so many cool effects in Dark Shadows history, and the Phoenix Ark is really full of it too. Really full of great effects. One of the early ones they pull off is Joan Bennett is acting dizzy and stuff, and she's going up the steps, and she gets up a couple steps, and then she falls. Really great performance by Joan here. But an effect I love is when you see Laura's sort of giant face in the room. Like, it's so creepy.
Yeah.
So, what's you guys' favorite special effect for the Phoenix Ark?
The
Gosh.
the climax when the wood shack's on fire.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, that's got to be it.
Yeah. It's really good too because you have, Alexander trying to save David. She's calling to him, and then finally, her and Burke get through. I mean, what an amazing scene that was. I mean, fire can be a very dangerous effect, obviously, but Dark Shadows seem to use it very, very well.
They really, and it looked was that done? Because that scene looks really well. Was that done with the chroma key, or how did they do that effect pattern?
I assume it was definitely done with the chroma key. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the fashion that they had, and I think that's what they would have used.
Yeah.
Because it looks really good. Like, if I do say so myself, I think sometimes like the later chroma key effects. I mean, the black and white I think might help it, but like some of the later color ones, you could tell. Whereas that one, it looks like that room is on fire.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And the acting is so great, and it's such a cool like idea because so Victoria Winters, Laura is a monster. She's trying to burn her child alive, but this is just what she does.
Yeah.
This is what being a loving mother is to Laura Collins.
It is in Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
For sure. I'll tell you what too, when Josette appears in Matthew Morgan's cottage and Laura's holding David and he's mine, Josette. He's mine. She knows Josette here. We get somebody who knew from Josette from the past, which was really interesting. What did you guys think of that?
It's I mean, Dark Shadows, goes to a different place at this point.
Yeah.
As I've said before, I'll say it again. Yeah, I mean, this is where it becomes a different show, and the show gives itself permission to do things like this.
Yeah.
I love how it's supernatural entity versus supernatural entity.
Yeah.
Yeah. The seance too helps that too when you have Vicky who's speaking French and it's Josette speaking through Victoria. At least that's how they're playing it off, and it's really a great scene. And you have Laura Dana Malay making these intense eyes at Vicky, like basically, in a sense, like almost taunting or trying to intimidate Josette's ghost out of her. Really, really great acting all around for that seance sequence.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I love how every time they do a seance, because that was the first one they did. I love how the fact that they darken these rooms. And again, in black and white, when you make a room even darker and you have a black and white setting, it makes it all the more fun to watch something like that.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah. You
Which-
feel like you're there.
yeah, I mean that's something Dark Shadows I think does from the very beginning. Like you feel like you're sitting across, not next to Victoria, but sort of sitting across from her, and you're just a part of this journey with her.
Mhm.
And it continues, like you just feel like you're a part of the house. You feel like you're part of the family in a sense, being told this magnificent story about this woman who they brought here to be tutor to David Collins, who would give Michael Myers a run for his money, at least early on. you know, but definitely the fact that because we do get the sense that in the early episodes that David is very much attached to his mother. And something I noticed too with the Phoenix Ark here, when Laura first arrives, David sort of sleeps through that experience, and then when he first sees her, he says, "That's not my mother." It's like that was shocking to me when I first saw that.
It's a shocking moment.
Yeah, it is. What did you think of that, Bobby?
It is. It's like because you want to know what he means. Like it really surprises you. Like when you first you know something's up with Laura Collins, but it's you're guessing on a whole other level now.
Yeah. And the fact that it's David who says this, and like you're getting this investigation by the police, the state police. We get the state police involved in Collinsport.
It's about time we'll get some sort of order in this town. Jeez.
I mean, they're sort of raining on Sheriff George Patterson's parade a bit, but hey,
He's not a parade kind of guy.
no, Dana Elker, I would imagine, wouldn't be. But yeah, it just really cool. It's funny. There's an interview. Richard Dean Anderson was in Pittsburgh for SteelCon, and somebody asked him, "Did Dana Elker ever talk to him about being on Dark Shadows?" He goes, "Actually, yeah." He said he talked to me about. We both talked about our days on soaps, which is like when you hear that, oh, that's cool. But so this fun little Phoenix Ark here. What's something to you guys that when you first watched this initially shocked you?
About the Phoenix Ark.
Yes.
Oh gosh. Shocked me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Shocked. That's a strong word. I think that it was they were willing to kill David.
Yeah.
Yeah, how real it felt. Because I watched this storyline. So I watched Dark Shadows 210 and then throughout the whole series, and then went back for the beginning episodes because I watched it as it was released on DVD. So I was used to like the vampires and all and like the later stuff, and I was shocked by just how real this felt.
Mm-hmm.
And like that it was our kind of core characters who are in danger and figuring it, like how it's Victoria Winters and Joe Haskell figuring it out, and instead of like the Professor Stokes and the Julia Hoffmans.
Mm-hmm.
So I was shocked by like the reality of the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And also this is sort of interesting. I went to the Dark Shadows convention in 2007, and Diana Melee was there, but I didn't. I kind of barely remembered her in 1897, so I didn't quite know who she was, but she was like riveting in the question and answer session because she was talking about reincarnation and everything. And when I saw finally saw her character like as Laura Collins, and because she really shines, I think she shines more in the original Phoenix storyline. And I was just like riveted by wow, this. It even though it's an actress and a character, she made that character feel so real.
Yeah.
I think they don't the fact that they get Elizabeth out of the way without killing her was smart by the writers,
Yeah.
but it also lets you know that the character is willing to do anything and everything to get what she wants, which is
Yeah.
Dave. That, and to me, the way they kill Peter Guffrey,
Yeah.
yes, in the car, on fire. It's like,
They want to make sure he's gone.
yeah, I mean,
It's an intense one.
it is. It's like the car is on fire. It's like, what a way to go. And it's like, it's one of the best, probably, kills in DS history. And it's so well done. It's so well set up. And the way they shoot this, how he's like, I can't see. Like somebody shining a light in his eyes. And then you hear the car crash and you hear the flames. It's such a great way to do it. And bravo to the effects department, the sound effects. It sounded like fire and heat. I mean, great job.
It was properly epic.
It was.
It really was.
The Phoenix Ark just is epic too. I mean, when you watch it, you can sit there and appreciate what they're doing. And the fact that they take bold risks too in getting Liz out the way, because that's one thing I wasn't expecting them to just, okay, Joan, boom, you're going to fall down some steps and you're going to be mute. Great acting by Joan Bennett when they put their hands in front of her face and she doesn't move her eyes. Great acting. I mean, all by Joan. And then they actually get her out of the house for the first time and off the hill, but to a hospital.
Look, whatever it takes.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the thing too. They had to get her out of there, but her last orders are, do not let David go with his mother, and Carolyn was put in charge. That's another thing. Carolyn sort of has to grow up during this entire arc. So what did you guys think of that, Bobby?
I was really like struck by that, because that's like from my journey of watching the show, I was surprised when I saw Carolyn in the beginning, because she's like such a teenager. And it just like this really was growing up of her character. She even that one scene when she's with David, and she's responsible for him.
Yeah. Patrick,
I agree.
I think too, like the fact that, because her and David haven't always got along, and now you're being told, hey, you're in charge. Roger isn't happy with any of it. But what Carolyn soon has to realize is, you know what? Just like my mother was in charge, I'm in charge, and you're going to take it. And I love that Nancy Barrett just takes charge as Carolyn.
Yeah.
It's a really grown-up moment for the character, and it lets you know that the character is growing. They're not just keeping her as this bratty teenager.
Yeah.
It's about time.
Right. I mean, she's not like falling over Burke anymore. It's like, no, it's time to put my big girl pants on and be the adult I was meant to be.
Yeah.
And I think the writers and Nancy just do a bang-up job with her.
And what's so great is, in life, very often we don't know what we're capable of doing until we have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's
those girl pants.
Yeah.
And then once you put on those pants and gone out in public, it's too late. Oh, those are some pretty big girl pants. I've seen you stand.
Listen. These legs wouldn't fool anybody.
Are they blue, and do they have white stars all over them?
No, but they're hairier than Alex Stevens on a Sunday.
Joel, would you fight for my rights in satin tights?
Absolutely.
Red, white, and blue.
And I would not only do red, white, and blue, but I would do any color you'd want me to. I'm good. Listen,
The
I'm a
whole
guy.
world is waiting for you, and the
Listen,
wonders that you do.
listen. When I was a kid, I had to dress as an elf for a play, and they wanted us to wear these green pants. Well, we couldn't find green pants, so I had to wear my mother's green stockings, silk
That was
stockings.
okay.
So as a kid, I wore women's stockings going down, and people are laughing at me like, he's wearing women's stockings. It's like, yeah, I had to wear green.
Now this was to the audition.
No, this was to a
Oh,
live audience.
okay.
This was to, I was in elementary school when I did this, when we were doing this. I have not forgotten that. There are no pictures of this, sadly, but it was hilarious. Um, so,
It's doing great.
yeah, just fun times. But I'm trying to think of what else. Let's see. We get Frank gets concerned about Dr. Guffrey when he does want to dig up a body or open up a grave. He realizes, that's a little much. Did you guys think that Frank was going to stop Gardner or sorry, Frank Gardner was going to stop Dr. Guffrey from doing it?
I hoped, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
I had a feeling that, like, I felt like the story had gone too far. Like,
Yeah.
the Frank Gardner wouldn't, like, be able to stop them.
Man. I mean, he does great. It's great opposite characters who are friends with each other.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I can't let him do this. I know what he's going to do. He pushes himself way too far. When you think of obsessed characters, though, I think Dark Shadows, I've talked about this, that Dark Shadows, I think, doesn't get enough credit for inspiring other obsessed characters. I could sort of see Dr. Guffrey and see a bit of Greg House in him, and especially Dr. Hoffman, too. I mean, there's definitely Dark Shadows just was way ahead of its time in developing its characters.
It was very diverse. I mean, let's just put it this way: the demographic of psychic investigators with brothers in parallel time is an underrepresented group. But Dark Shadows represented that group. And as a psychic investigator with a brother in parallel time, I feel represented by Dark Shadows now as a result of them getting that important ethnic demographic. I thought Guthrie and I were the only ones.
Man. It's amazing. I mean, it really is. I'm trying to think. Is there anything you guys want to add about the Phoenix Ark?
It doesn't lay an egg, and if it does, it cooks it at the same time. Think about it.
Well, I think it's one of their spookiest arcs. It's so well done. It's has such a great air of mystery. The black and white photography is, like, right on point. Like, it's wonderful.
I think it was shocking too to see Burke made into a sucker by a woman too.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something that none of us were prepared for, I think, because here's a guy who had been so headstrong, but now Laura comes to town and he's all but mush until finally Vicky pulls him up and, like, hey,
yeah,
right, you got to fight with us here, and he does.
He does, yeah.
He finally, like, hey, if you would just answer some simple questions, and that there, when finally everybody's against her, is just so good. But yeah, first of all, thank you guys for joining me on this. This was a lot of fun.
It sure was. I loved it. Thank you for having me.
It was. Thank you.
Yeah. Links to Dusty Old Movies, which is Bobby's YouTube page, is going to be in the description box. Links to Dark Shadows Playbook of Bow is going to be in the description box. If you guys haven't picked it up, go ahead and pick it up. Gentlemen, it is always a pleasure. I'll be seeing you and have a happy new year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye, guys.